So here is a recap of some of the things we learned about in Chapter 1. Okay, one of the things we learned was how to find intercepts. So let's go ahead and find the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. I'm noticing that this equation right here, okay, is y and x squared. So this is going to be the shape of a parabola shape. Okay, the x-intercept is found by letting the y equal 0. So I'm going to go ahead and make the y number 0. X squared equals 10. And when you square root both sides, don't forget to say plus or minus radical 10. That does not simplify. So there are two x-intercepts at plus and minus square root of 10. The y-intercept is found by letting the x number be 0. So if x is 0, then we get y equals 10. Okay, so we've got intercepts like that. If I put this on a graph, we're going to have negative square root of 10 and positive square root of 10. And the y-intercept is positive 10. Okay. If I were to rearrange that and switch x squared to the other side, that would be negative x squared plus 10. So after studying our parabola chapter and the graphing shapes chapter, this is a parabola opening down, shifted 10 units up. Okay, so it makes sense that this parabola would be opening down just like this. Okay, that's stuff that we studied in chapter 1. Looks pretty easy now, right? Something else that we studied, okay, was the equations of lines. And there's two different forms of this. There's point-slope form, and then there's slope-intercept form. Okay, point-slope is where you have a point, and then you have a slope. Slope-intercept form is where you have a slope, an m, and then a y-intercept, a b. So there's two different versions. There's a line going through these 2 points. So the first thing I'm going to do is calculate the slope. Okay, so it's y minus y. Remember, you have to y's up, right, people? Y's go up and x's go down. So it doesn't matter which one you start with. I think I'm going to use this point as my starting point. 1 minus the minus 2, which makes positive 2. And then go back here, x 10 minus minus 8 is plus, and so 3/18 is going to be 1/6. Okay, so I have an uphill line, have a positive slope, and there are two forms of this. The easier one to do is actually start with point slope. So let's go ahead and do point slope first, number 1. And it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, and then y1, x1, that's a point, and then m is your slope. Okay, I'll use that same positive point from before. You could choose either one. Y minus the 1 equals the slope, which was 1/6, times x minus your x point, which is 10. Okay, you could also have chose the negative 8 and the negative 2 and made your equation like that. So this is point slope form. Okay, so go ahead and look at the multiple choice answers on the final and see if you find that answer. If the answer doesn't have this point, it might have the other point. Now, if all your answers are in slope-intercept form, here's the second part of the question, that's y equals mx plus b. Okay, so what you can very easily do is take this equation, I always start with this form, and simply distribute, and then combine like terms. So y minus 1, distribute is 1/6 x minus 10/6. That's divide by 6, so 10 has to get divided by 6. And then we'll add 1 to both sides. So 1/6 x. Let's reduce this. Let's divide by 2 and get 5/3. And when I add 1, I'm not going to write 1. I'll write 3/3. So in point slope form, the answer is y equals 1/6 x minus 2/3. Okay. So take a look at the multiple choice answers and see if they're all in that form, or if the directions say slope intercept, then you're going to want to put it like that. Okay, the last thing that we did that chapter had to deal with secant lines. Okay, so a secant is a line that intersects the graph in two places. Okay, so here's my function. This is a cubic, and I want to know what the secant line is from -1 to 3. So the first thing that we're going to do is find the average rate of change. And when I say average rate of change, that's a fancy way of saying slope. Okay, so first we have to calculate the slope. So I'm going to take my function and I'm going to plug in -1. -1 into the function. So that's going to be negative, and then the point is -1 has to get cubed, plus 5 times -1 minus 2. So f of -1 is 1 minus 5 minus 2, -6. Okay, so the first point is -1, -6. Okay, now we have to do that again. Now we have to take our function and plug in a 3. Plug in a 3. So we've got -3 gets cubed plus 5 times 3 minus 2. F of 3 equals -27 plus 15, and then minus 2. That's going to be -14. So when you plug in a 3, you get a y value of -14. Okay, so what we just found here, okay, are 2 points. That was always step 1. We found 2 points, okay, going from -1 to 3. Now what are we going to do with that? We're going to use that to find the average rate of change, which is the slope. Okay, so the average rate of change, or the slope, is y minus y, -6 minus 14 over x minus x, -1 minus 3, and the average rate of change is 8 divided by -4, which makes -2. Okay, so I've found the slope. Okay, but that is not the secant line. Okay, the secant line is a line, so let's go ahead and work on our secant line now. Okay, and I'm going to use point slope form again. Y minus, let's pick a y. I'm going to pick these numbers here. They look a little smaller. Y minus -6 is going to be plus equals m. We've got our -2. X minus -1 is +1. So we'll go ahead and distribute. -2x minus 2 minus 6 is going to be -8. Here is the equation of the secant line. Okay, it's a straight line. But first you have to find 2 points and, of course, the average rate of change, which means slope. I hope this helped recap Chapter 1.